Welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show. Tonight we carry on our journey through the major sins of Islam, and we will be looking at one particular one, lying. And to accompany us for this will be our good friend Lily J, who is the Dawah Queen at the moment. We'll be having a short look at her video, and then we'll be going on to the next 7 Sins of Islam. Now, as usual, I have my co-pilot with me, Mr. Stop Spamming. Welcome, sir.
Hi ho, hi ho.
Excellent. And we also have Ihsan is back with us tonight, which is always fantastic. Welcome back, mate. Good to have you here.
Thank you for having me on.
Always welcome. So, people in the chat, leave your comments, like, subscribe. I always forget to do all that like YouTube stuff because I'm not used to doing live videos too much. But like, subscribe, tell friends, family, everyone you know to come and watch this show because it's brilliant.
Call the Pope.
Yeah. So, just before I wanted to start, did anybody see the video that Harris Sultan dropped just a couple of hours ago?
Oh, no, I hadn't had checked that.
It seems like he's taken his first step down the apostate prophet route.
Shit.
He insists in the video that it's like, oh, no, I'm not going to become a Christian, but he's doing this. You know what? Cultural Christianity will save the West. And I've always admired Christianity. And Charlie Kirk is a great guy. I don't know if you know who Charlie Kirk is, but he's one of these political YouTubers who is on record as stating that he thinks that the separation of church and state in America is a myth and that you should have the 10 Commandments on the wall. And Harris Sultan is using this guy as an example of somebody who is going to save the West from like the religiosity of Islam. He's even got a video of him quoting like Charlie Kirk saying, "Oh yeah, one of the things that doesn't fit with the West is that there's no separation of church of mosque and state." And it's like, yeah, but you don't fucking believe that either. So I mean, how are you suddenly the savior of that kind of secular equality kind of thing where you don't have one religion dominant over the other? So it's just it's a little bit depressing to see another one going down that route. And despite him saying, No, I'm not converting. That was the exact same thing that AP said, 6 years ago. So, yeah.
My opinion is like, with these people, especially with like Ayan Ali Hirsi, they're converted to Christianity, and her reasoning was that it was a better bulwark against Islam than atheism.
Yeah.
But what my view is, we just need to get rid of all blasphemy laws and all these sentences that are given out to people for putting something on Twitter, or all that needs to go, and then people will be much more open in giving their opinions. Then you can attack bad ideas that way.
Yeah, and look, I mean, this whole cultural criticism. Sorry, the audience. We will get into the main topic shortly, but I just thought this was worth mentioning. Consider this like a news politics section just at the start. I mean, I'm not like against this whole kind of cultural. You take certain bits from your culture, from your religion. I mean, I'm sure lots of atheists do. If you're of a Hindu background, there's probably certain Hindu rituals you do. If you're an atheist from a Muslim background, you still might like certain, doing Ramadan with the family and things like that. As an ex-Christian, I still like having my Christmas tree up. I quite like Christmas carols. So I'm not trying to dump on that. I think it's fine to have that in the background. But this idea that you're going to point to like cultural Christianity and how it's represented now by some of these kind of political YouTubers and stuff, they're not there in that sense. They're basically saying we want to revive the idea of things like, let's get religion into the schools again. Let's start teaching intelligent design and all that bullshit. It's like you really got to be careful. Like they say politics makes for strange bedfellows, but you got to be careful what you catch in that bedroom, depending on who's in there with you. And I just think it's really, I don't know if it's like for views and clicks because you'll get Christians who will subscribe to you or whatever, but it's like, you don't need to go down that road. You can just say, fine, you can have your cultural Christianity and you have your cultural Hinduism, whatever, but let's just agree that no one's going to be dominant and we're not going to have this, science corrupted by it and all the rest of it. And I don't know. But I just thought it was a bit depressing. That was all, just seeing Harris Sultan take that first step. Anyways, gentlemen, I don't know if you've got anything more to say on that or whether you just want to move on to the Dawah Queen here.
No, let's go to the video.
Yeah, it's a very short one. It isn't quite a YouTube short, but it's only about 80 seconds. But it's a great example of how she just kind of makes stuff up on the spot. But because she says it with this ditzy voice, and it's like, oh, have you ever wondered about this? It's for some reason it convinces Muslims. But yeah, let's play it. And basically, she's talking about Muhammad and how he's the most magnificent person who's ever lived and all that stuff. So let's take a look.
I just learned something crazy, and I'm not sure if many people would know this. Did you know that Prophet Muhammad was the biggest celebrity of his time? He was a leader and a ruler. He had over 120,000 people at his final sermon just to listen to him speak. Can you even imagine what 120,000 people looks like in one place over 1,400 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I can do better. I mean, there's a lot there, but I can do better than that straight away. I'm not sure when the Colosseum was built in Rome, but I'm sure it's at least like 700-800 years before Muhammad came along.
Yeah,
you could get 100,000 people in the Colosseum, and that was just to watch some gladiators hack each other to pieces. So, and the what was it called? The Circus Maximus, which is like a chariot racing circuit in Rome. It's I suppose the equivalent of the Grand Prix for the Roman Empire. The capacity was something like 300,000. So this idea that like there's a whole bunch of people in the ancient world gathering together, that is not impressive to me. Secondly, there's no evidence of any of these claims she's made. Like this is literally just made up. I think some of the Islamic scriptures say that like 100,000 people was at its at Muhammad's last speech, but there's no actual evidence of it. This is just all the hearsay, as far as I know, unless you guys know of any source material. But
well, come on! It even says that when Muhammad was born, what a light emitted from the pudendum of his mother, which lit up the palaces in Syria.
I believe it. Yeah, sounds reasonable.
Yeah, I heard something about the fish tweeted out a sound or something when he was born.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I suppose they have to counter the stuff that it says in the Quran about Jesus because he was talking as a baby, wasn't he? Apparently, so.
Yeah, the mother just after birth was shaking a palm tree. Can you believe it?
I believe everything that Lily J tells me. I really do.
My
She's
goodness.
She's definitely got a proven track record of not lying when she uses ChatGPT. Apart from there's about 50 videos on YouTube proving that she lies doing it. But
I call her a Barbie, and then I have to apologize to all real Barbies.
No, don't. No, I think it is sad because like people will look at, she does come across as like a stereotype bimbo, and I think it's bad that women get associated with that because she's become the face of Islam now at the moment. And I give credit to the average Muslim woman. I would say is not this kind of shallow, bobbing her head around idiot. So it's quite sad. But the claims that they're making, like, yeah, okay, yeah, he was a ruler, he was a warlord, yeah, so what? I mean, big deal. But should we see what else she's got? Some juicy tidbits?
Yeah, just for fun.
He would have been like a king, yet he chose to be humble. You can see.
Oh yeah, Muhammad. He just speaks humble, doesn't he? I mean, we've got lots of evidence of that. The fact that everyone has to say "peace be upon him" every time they mention his name, that speaks of a man who's humble, doesn't it?
Oh my goodness!
And he had this. Was it like 20% of the spoils of raiding a caravan party or something?
Yeah, went straight to him. Yeah, so that's humble.
She's going to tell us that he was so peaceful as well.
Oh, we'll see. What else has she got? Let's have a look.
How celebrities these days are treated, right? Naturally, it would have been the same. People were begging to be around him, and according to Hadith, women were offering themselves continuously for marriage to him.
Really? Should we ask Maria the Copt about that? Because I don't think she offered herself. I think she was given as a slave and taken as a slave and used as a sex slave by Muhammad, according to the Islamic sources. So, but
there's more girls like that. Remember, we had this in one of the last episodes where we realized, yeah, come on. I mean, he's just killed the father, the brother, the husband, the uncle, everything of this poor girl, and then he goes and rapes her. She threw herself at him. Oh, Muhammad, you are so great. You killed my husband. You freed me from my father. Let's have sex.
Yeah. I mean, I shouldn't laugh because I mean, if this story was actually a reflection of reality, I mean, it's obviously
No,
it's horrible.
it's not.
But,
It's made up.
but it's yeah. I just feel that oh, hang on a second, we've got a question here. It's a shame that Muslims would rather believe the lies made up by YouTubers from the far more interesting ones made up by Allah. Yeah, good point, Smile. Yeah, but it's also it's so funny, like what she's doing. I'm surprised actually that the more orthodox Muslims haven't actually come down on her for this, because she's trying to portray Muhammad like he's like a movie star or a pop star today or something. It's like saying, oh, he's this big celebrity and women were throwing their knickers at him and all this kind of thing. It's like, I don't know. It doesn't strike me as the usually austere decorum that the Orthodox Muslims like to portray, you know, around Muhammad. But yeah, this idea that women were throwing himself at him and, you know, he didn't take slaves or something, absolute nonsense.
But it's in the Quran, you see. Because it's in the Quran, they have to go and make up stories like this. Because in the Quran, you have this plenty, that there are rules for Muhammad that do not apply to anyone else. I mean, even today, we are being told you're not allowed to marry any of the wives of Muhammad. I mean, what sense does that make? Come on.
Well, yeah, and actually, a video on my main channel, I caught Ali Dawah lying about that at Speaker's Corner. He was pretending that the reason that Aisha, for example, didn't marry again was because she was so in love with Muhammad that there was just no way she could give her heart to anyone else, even though there's an explicit command in the Quran that says it's forbidden by God for her to do it. So he just makes up stuff. Sorry, a little bit of a sidetrack, but yeah, one of the sins is lying today, so it's worth mentioning Ali Dawah at least once. But it's well, let's spin on, see what else she's got.
He was the most handsome, the most sought after.
The most handsome. I mean,
does she have a photo? Does she have a selfie with him?
I mean, she sounds like a groupie, quite frankly. I mean, this is just dear.
But why is it that Muslims accept her? Because, come on, she's not wearing a hijab, she's not covering up, she's not doing anything. And yet, just because she's saying something nice, she's allowed to walk around like this? Immoral, immodest?
It's not just that, though, Stops, because what it is, and I've seen some of the Muslims, the more established ones, commenting, they're all basically like, she's in a period of grace, a bit like Andrew Tate and Sneeko and all these other like pseudo celebrities that kind of join. It's like they get this grace period where we can use their kind of pseudo fame to get more positive attention towards Islam, and then we'll start pressuring her. So this is like an intermediate period. She'll be in a hijab at some point, I'm sure, or they'll cast her out. But yeah, let's play this a bit more.
And the most respected and admired of his time. Yet,
how is he the most admired and respected? As we're talking about, he was barely known outside of Arabia. So how you can say that against the rest of the world? And he had plenty of enemies. So how was he? Yeah, I mean, I suppose once he killed most of his enemies, those people that were still alive probably respected / feared him. But again, it's just a made up claim. It's just a bullshit claim to say something like that.
Well, don't you know Al-Razi? I mean, he hated the whole concept of Islam and the stories about Muhammad. So he made fun of this. He says, what kind of a guy is this that you have to make up stories about him?
Yeah, absolutely.
all of his marriages were built on faith, wisdom, and purpose, not lust. They were all with consent. And most
Right. I mean, first of all,
at the age of 9, consent.
No, bear in mind, it was 6. It was
Marriage
only
was
the the bedroom stuff happened at 9. That's consent. And Maria the Copt, who was a slave, that was consent as well. Sure. And it's not just Maria the Copt. I mean, apparently, I read somewhere in line, one of his companions is quoted as talking about saying that Muhammad had at least 4 concubines. And a concubine, by definition in Islam, has to be a slave, because a concubine is someone you have sex with outside marriage, and the only person who you can have outside sex outside marriage with in Islam is a slave. So, so consent is 6-year-olds and slaves, apparently.
So I just get the impression that these, the people, they have to, it's like a one-upmanship. You have to show yourself to be more pious than the next one.
Yeah.
So to do that, you have to make up a more outrageous story than the next one. So each of these stories that just gets passed down, it becomes more and more unbelievable.
I wonder whether she knows there's like dozens of hadiths which actually have Muhammad telling his men it's perfectly okay to enjoy raping female captives, and you don't have to worry about getting them pregnant, so you don't have to pull out. So just because the prices will go down on the slave market. And this is Muhammad giving his people this advice.
Well, it's
I wonder whether
notorious.
she knows about that.
But also, what were the things that you said that he married for? Faith, wisdom, and purpose. Now, right, faith, whatever that means. Wisdom, well, if your goal is to marry an older woman to basically get her wealth and then use that to found a religion, I suppose if that's your purpose, then I would agree that's what he did. And if that's your goal, there's wisdom in doing that to achieve that goal. But notice that she didn't use the word like love or companionship or anything that a regular human being would perhaps want in a partner.
Good point. Yeah, exactly.
It's just strategy, isn't it? Like wisdom and purpose. There's nothing like human there, as far as I can see. Yeah, and but never for lust. Never for lust. What about his? Yeah, he had a dream, didn't he? That his son-in-law's wife came to him in a wet dream, and therefore he had to marry a son-in-law's wife. I can't remember.
No, that was Aisha. The wet dream was Aisha, and the daughter-in-law was when he went to his son, and she was half naked in the house, and then he said, not bad.
See, this is a good thing to have stop spamming here, because he can always separate out, and then we get two nightmare scenarios instead of just the one. Right, let's finish this off.
Most of his marriages were to older widows needing protection or for a higher purpose, not for sex.
Sorry, I got to pause it there, but I'm sorry. When you marry a wealthy widow, like there's no inclination like that. Never happens today. Somebody marries a wealthy widow to get the money, doesn't it? No, he was trying to protect her. Of course, these noble ambitions. Sorry.
Well, that's why they say she married him, to get him out of this conundrum.
Yeah.
Desires at all, whereas other rulers of his time had thousands of wives and concubines.
Do we know who she's referring to there? These other rulers who had thousands? I mean, there were certainly other. I mean, it was standard, wasn't it, for kings and emperors and stuff to have harems and things like that. But thousands, that might be pushing it a little bit.
Well, I believe that a couple of years ago, maybe 40, 50, there was still a competition in northern Western Africa who had the bigger harem.
Oh, was it? That's charming. Oh dear. Right, we just got a few more seconds of this. Let's finish it off.
Do you really think a man of such stature would need to force women to be with him? What do you guys think? I just learned something.
I think yes. I think the Islamic scriptures themselves say that happened. He was given slaves and he used them for sex. So it's just Lily J being Lily J again, just doing this, making stuff up. But I did say it was a quick one. So I don't know. Anyone got any concluding thoughts on that?
Thank God this is just made up.
Yeah. And thank God it was only 80 seconds, because to be honest, it is hard to take anything more of this from Lily. But she's speaking confidently as if she's done the research, which is clear she hasn't. So Griff seems likely. Yeah, I mean, this is all. This is her entire content. I think she occasionally talks to other Muslims, but it's just all these little sound bites. As her entire channel was built on them, basically. Harvey Weinstein, dude. I'm not sure what that was in relation to, but you're talking about the thousands of people, thousands of slaves and concubines. Okay, possible.
I think he's the Harvey Weinstein of the day. I think that's what she's like.
Oh dear. There's a soundbite. Is this the Muslim guy who was here last time? I can't remember.
She did the research, of course. Yeah.
No, he didn't.
She's an expert. She's a historian.
Okay. Well, anyways, that is the end of that. So I'm going to go on to the Hadith of the week. So if you bear with me a second. Now it's a bit of a longer one, so I'm probably not going to. It's quite a long one here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically quickly explain what the top part is saying, because it's quicker than reading it. So this is Ibn Majah, Book 10, Hadith 2144, or Volume 3, Book 10, Hadith 2066, depending on what you're using. So the first part of this Hadith is basically there's one Muslim talking to another Muslim saying, oh, I want to find out what the punishment is if you if you catch your wife with another man. Do you kill that guy, or what do you do? Do you retaliate? And the other guy is saying, oh, well, I'll go ask Muhammad, or tells him to go ask Muhammad. So he goes to ask Muhammad. Muhammad disapproves of the question, sends him back. He says to his mate, well, that didn't do anything. So his mate goes and speaks to Muhammad to ask him what to do about this scenario. So I think that's where we can start reading from. So he says, oh, Messenger of Allah. Oh, hang on, beg your pardon. Sorry. So he went to the Messenger of Allah and found that Quran had been revealed concerning them. So apparently Muhammad's had a revelation in between them, going back and forth between them. And the Prophet told them to go through the procedure of li'an, which I don't know what that is, but it sort of explains it in the next line. So Iwamir said, O Messenger of Allah, by Allah, if I take her back, I would have been telling lies about her. So presumably Prophet Muhammad has told him to basically take your wife back, even if you caught with another man. Now, where are we? So, so he's telling her to take her back. So it says this guy, he left her before the Messenger of Allah told him to do so. And that became the sunnah for the two who engage in the procedure of li'an. Then the Prophet said, wait and see. If she gives birth to a child who is black in colour with widely spaced dark eyes and large buttocks, then I think that he was telling the truth about her. But if she gives birth to a child with a red complexion, like a wara, sorry for the pronunciation, then I think that he was lying. Then she gave birth to a child with features resembling those of the man concerning whom she was accused. Right, so this is vaguely connected to lying, but the reason that I've highlighted this is, number one, Mr. Anti-Racism that Muhammad is always portrayed to be, he's just using kind of like stereotypical language for if this child is going to be born kind of black or mixed race. So that's one thing. Secondly, he doesn't seem to be the best geneticist here, because he's just assuming that it's going to be one color or another, and presumably if there are two parents of different color, the chances are they're going to be could be a complexion somewhere in between the two parents. Thirdly, he doesn't even address the question. They came to him and said, what do you do when the when you catch a man with when you catch your wife with another man? Do you kill the man? He hasn't actually answered that. He's just basically saying, well, if you take her back, it depends on what color the baby is born. So it's just one of these hadiths that is just really bizarre. And I always question, half the time when I read these hadiths, why do people continue to go back to Muhammad when this is the advice he was doling out? Because it's just a bit demented to me. But yeah, this is another pearl of wisdom about lying and about, marriage and children and stuff. We don't get to find out, though, if you get to murder the man or not. So maybe that's in another hadith. So anyways, I can tell by you immediately jumping in that you wanted to correct me on this, and you think this is a fantastic hadith that's worth 1,000 years of knowledge.
I'm just saying, well, wait for the baby and then have a look at what the baby looks like. That's just basically all he said.
Yeah, but he doesn't. But he doesn't say well, okay, so if it looks like it is the child of another man, then you get to kill the guy who.
Yeah.
It doesn't even confirm that at the end of the hadith.
Forgets about it. Yeah.
It's very, very strange. Anyways, right. I think we're going to move on to the main topic, which is the 70 sins of Islam. And so we are. Well, let's a quick recap of last week. Islam had its best week last week when myself and Stops were doing it. You weren't here, Hassan, but they picked up 3.5 out of 7 points when I went back to check, which is the best in terms of morality points Islam has done any week so far. But it heavily relied upon the fact that there was a lot of repetition in the sins. I think 3 or 4 of them were concerning some kind of theft. So Islam's doing better, but only because it's repeating itself. And just for anyone it's your first time listening, basically how we do this is we're going to read 7 sins out of the 70 major sins of Islam. If we consider that sin to be something that should be a criminal act, we give it 1 point to basically say, yes, it's got some validity for the modern day. If we don't think it's a criminal act, something that should be banned by law, but you can make a case that it is an immoral kind of behavior, we'll give it 0.5 point. If we think it's a kind of 50-50 that it could be immoral, might not be immoral, we'll give it 1/4 point. And if we don't see anything immoral about it at all, we get 0. So that's the basic process. So I hope that's clear for everyone. If you're listening and you're new, if you want to go back, all the previous episodes are in a playlist on the channel. If you want to watch back the other ones and see how Islam has done so far, at the end of this, or rather at the start of the next episode, I will be doing a halftime report because we would have done half of the 70 sins by the end of tonight. So with all that said, let me bring up the next one, which is sorry, I need to get more efficient at doing this screen sharing thing.
Well, maybe it's time to point out that you're doing this on your own. You don't have a team behind you who's doing all this, because most of the Dawah channels, they have like a whole group of people, each one taking care of something else. And here Drastic is doing everything on his own, doing all the research, collecting everything, presenting everything, putting everything together. So this is a one-man job, really doing everything. So I'm impressed, actually. And so I don't know why you're actually apologizing. I think you're doing a brilliant job.
Yeah, good job.
Well, that is very kind of you to say so, although I think I might have managed to note the pages down wrong on this. I don't know how. Oh, no, there it is. Okay. Right. So we're going to try not using the word that is on the screen there, because it's a surefire way of getting yourself restricted. Now, I know we're not monetized, but you can get restricted in terms of where YouTube is going to send the, do recommendation stuff. So the next thing on the list is suicide, is unaliving yourself. Jesus, how did I just go ahead and say it straight away? I didn't quite say the word, so hopefully. So unaliving yourself. So the Quran verse relating to this, Allah Almighty says, "Do not kill yourselves. Allah is most merciful to you. If anyone who does so out of enmity and wrongdoing, we will roast him in a fire. That is an easy matter for Allah." And that is Quran 4:29-30. So unaliving yourself. Ihsan, since you weren't here last week, do you want to start on this one and try if you can not to use yes words, or if you do, sort of like half mumble it or something? But what do you think about this one? Sin, not sin?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think, because it's not that it doesn't happen. It does, but they do it in a way that's ambiguous. It's not like it's an obvious event. You know, they still do it. When you think of like the Egypt Air flight where the pilot just crashed it in the plane in the sea, and everyone says, well, it was this, but because of their cultural sensitivity, they don't say that it is this unaliver. They say, it was probably an accident or something. So part of me thinks that if it wasn't such a red line, then more of them would do it in a way that only involved them and not lots of innocent people as well.
But how do you think in terms it's relating to today? Would you consider this an immoral act, or it should be an illegal act, or how would you see?
I wouldn't. Yeah, I mean, because they didn't really have the concept of euthanasia, which is something different. And I know, because I've dealt with a lot of people who are against euthanasia because of religious verses like this, not just in Islam but in other sects of Christianity mainly. So I would go against it. I wouldn't give this a point, because I do believe in euthanasia.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same. I mean, I can obviously, and I'm not just saying this for YouTube. I'm saying it because I believe it. Obviously, I think that taking that drastic action is really the last thing I'd want to see someone do. I mean, I would always want to encourage someone to try and embrace life and get help or anything if they were feeling that way. But at the same time, I recognize that there are some people who just get to a state in their life where, whether it's whatever health condition they've got, just might mean that they're in terrible pain and stuff like that. And I don't believe in forcing someone to endure something that they don't want to do. At the end, you should have ultimately control of your own life, and as long as you are doing it in a manner where you haven't been persuaded, coerced, manipulated, that kind of thing, then I think it's not an immoral act. And I suppose you could sort of argue from the point of view, it does matter kind of the way you do it, and it obviously can impact on your loved ones. I'm not saying it doesn't have negative consequences even if you go ahead and do it, but I mean, they're doing the a euthanasia bill at the moment in the UK. I think it has passed, and I think it's going through the House of Lords. And I'm cautiously for it, and I think it's a good thing to change the law as long as you have those protections and safeguards, and you really do all you can to give that person other options if there are ways of managing, health conditions and stuff. But yeah, I wouldn't consider it a sin. I think, and I wouldn't consider it intrinsically immoral. I think you are in charge of your own life, and as long as you've got, sound of mind and everything, and you can make that decision honestly, it should be down to the individual. That's my view. So I would also give it 0. Stops. Any other thoughts on that, or do you want to completely disagree with us?
No, totally not. Okay, hang on. There's 3 things I want to mention. One thing is, I agree that. Okay, my mother once told me, I don't want to be forced to live, and I don't want to be forced to die. So she said either way. The second thing is, the way that it works is, if it is made legal, then there are 2 provisions that. Number one, this accompanied euthanasia is done with a doctor and with a lawyer. In other words, you understand the legal implications and you understand the medical ones. So they make sure that, number one, you are 100% sure that this is your wish. And number 2, that you are the one executing it. So there can't be anybody else saying, I did this on command or something. This doesn't work. And those provisions, I think, give you sufficient backing to be able to do this. Now, the third thing that I see here is that it says, do not yourselves, but don't one another. So this is a totally separate thing. So I totally agree you shouldn't kill other people unless, out of self-defense, of course. But I think here they're like mixing it a little bit. You are like one soul. No, you're not. No, you're not. You are responsible for yourself, not for other people. And that is why I think this is the commentary here is a little bit wrong by Al-Wahidi. But otherwise, absolutely no points here.
Okay, good. Somebody has put in the. All right, let's read this comment. You've no control over your own body to cellular level. When you take your own life, you're actually killing a body, and you have no control over at a cellular level. Yeah, I really don't know what you were getting at that.
I don't understand this.
Okay, so that was not worth looking at. If you want to retype that, Karate 100, then feel free to. If you want to try and make that a little bit more coherent, but I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Right, so I think so it's unanimous. And I mean, I would just say one little caveat though, and I understand why people do. Well, actually, two small caveats. I understand why people do have reservations, because there are, and I think it's a reasonable argument from a lot of the disabled people will say, look, there's going to be more pressure on us because. Of potentially of things like extra needs for caring and stuff like that. If you kind of push society in that way, then maybe our lives are going to be looked at less valuably. And I can understand that kind of worry, even though I don't think that's the intention of any euthanasia law, but I can kind of see it from the point of view of people, or even if you do have some kind of terminal illness and you are suffering, but you personally may have the endurance to take it, you may still want to carry on. And then will you feel like there's going to be pressure from the family and stuff like that. And I know that there are supposed to be provisions to take care of it, but I can sort of understand that worry. The other thing I just want to mention was, if you ever look at Canada, because I think they passed their euthanasia law a few years ago now, 2-3 years ago or something, and apparently they are expanding the range of things you can do it for, and it's becoming more and more kind of it's been used a lot more than they thought it would be. Now, you could argue that that means that there just were more people who wanted to have that option. But I can also understand this idea of kind of like euthanasia creep, where the provisions are not like society is almost becoming used to just saying, yeah, we're going to check out, or we're going to, I don't know, maybe I'm not explaining it the best, but I can understand like where a lot of people are doing it. It's kind of like, is it because you put it into the society to say that someone should acquiesce to that pressure, whether that's how it happens on an individual level or not. So I sort of do see the idea of like this euthanasia creep. I can understand why people are concerned about it, but I would still say
in like Netherlands as well, where people are, they're doing it for like some milder mental health problems on otherwise healthy people.
Well, this is the thing, and it's kind of like you need to be careful that you're not kind of getting to the point where it's like, well, this is just an easy way out, and you could have easily managed this in some kind of other way. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't change. I still think it's 0 for this, but I think it's worth. I think there are some valid worries that people have. I don't think it's just like religious fundamentalism or anything like that. I think there are other genuine concerns that people should be aware of. But
I'd still give this a 0.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I suppose since we're just talking about the ethics of it, I think it's interesting to kind of throw those bits in. But yeah, definitely, it's a big fat 0 for Islam. So should we move on to the next one, gentlemen?
Sure.
Yep.
Okie dokie. I think this should be the right page. And it's not. Damn it. I swear this numbering system is just... Oh, man, I've gone right past it. Bear with me, folks. Gone back to... All right, here we are. So, number 30 is inveterate lying. So I suppose habitual lying. Allah Almighty says, call down the curse of Allah upon the liars. That's Quran 361. Deaf to conjecturers. Quran 51:10. In other words, liars. I mean, that's really short and sweet, isn't it? Just deaf to liars. Allah does not guide any unbridled inveterate liar, and that's Quran 40:28. Who wants to start on this one?
Well, I mean, I suppose you could have a look at all the Dawah guys. Number of times. They're all habitual liars. Anything, especially when you Saborna's evolution stuff, and you got to admire his breaking of this rule.
Yeah, but I totally agree with you. The Dawah guys are just beyond the pale. I mean, really, they should be roasting the hell more than anyone else, as far as I'm concerned, because they are definitely habitual liars. But what do we think? As I say, I mean, we're always looking at this in terms of what do we think of it in today's context? Do we think that lying is a sin? Do we think it's something that should be illegal? Do we think it's something that's immoral? Well, look, from my point of view, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I mean, I certainly think it's immoral. Whether it should be illegal, I suppose it depends on consequences. In the way it's illegal to lie in court, and it's in a way it is illegal to lie in public office. It's something about misleading people. So, it's difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I
probably
would
have to say.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Hassan, sorry, Karen.
No, sorry. Yeah, I'd probably have to, maybe give it half a point, because.
So you'd say it's immoral, but not generally illegal.
Yeah, except in those like certain circumstances, like in a court or something.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I would say, because I think this is talking about general lying, and I think we might have covered a previous one which was more about kind of lying in terms of as a witness, so essentially like perjuring yourself. So I think that's already kind of covered by another sin, which I would agree should be illegal if you are the consequences could mean that somebody else is kind of suffering a crime or a punishment for a crime they haven't committed, so that kind of thing. But in general, lying, I think I would agree with you. I think, yes, in general, I think it is probably immoral to lie. But then sometimes lying is also, for the greater good. I mean, not probably too often, I would say. I'd say it probably is better not to lie most of the time. But I'm torn between giving it a half and a quarter, to be honest, because I can see there are definitely cases where lying is the moral thing to do. And I don't think they're just fringe cases. I think you can come up with quite a lot of scenarios where lying could be, well, certainly if it's not immoral, I certainly wouldn't, now not a moral thing to do, but I certainly wouldn't say it's necessarily immoral if it's some really trivial thing. So I'm sort of torn between a half a point and a quarter of a point. So I don't know, Stops, what do you think? Can you break
I would go for a quarter, because it's exactly what you're saying. There are instances and well, I don't know, situations where lying is absolutely a necessity, I would say. So you can't just generally ban it. What surprises me is that there are so many sentences in the Quran. I've just looked them up, because it's confound not truth with falsehood, and not knowingly conceal the truth. Bring your proof if you are truthful. So there's a lot of who deceiveth will bring his deceit with him on the day of resurrection. And there's so many of these sentences where I'm surprised that they're not here. So the Quran is very much against lying. But then on the other hand, it's allowed. I mean, you have this whole area of taqiyya, where this originates from the Shias, but has been taken on by the Sunnis as well, that if you fear for your life, or if you are being exposed as something, you are allowed to lie. So,
well, not only that, Stops, we've got Smile in the chat there. I've just put it up on the screen there. He's come up with a hadith from Bukhari where Allah's messenger saying, he who makes peace between the people by inventing good information or saying good things is not a liar. So that is in a sense saying that you can make shit up if there's a good result out of it. So it's that's thank you for that, Smile. That's a very interesting hadith, because that is basically saying you can, it's like telling a little white lie or something, isn't it, essentially? So I mean, I think a quarter, because as I say, I mean, we put in this new category for the half a point, not for really fringe cases, but situation where you really could put it in one camp or the other. It's closer to like a 50-50. And I think this lying thing, like you're saying, Stops, I think there are plenty of situations where you could reasonably say it's not immoral to lie in this situation. It's not just some like freak hypothetical or something. So
this is interesting. You can't even create the veins on your own arms. Why do you believe you should own what you don't create? I don't understand sentences like this. Why do you believe you own what you don't create?
It's strange. This is some theist who's just
but I don't understand it.
Presupposition
Do you believe that you were not created by your parents? Do you think the stork brought you, or how did I don't understand? And there's also subjective, insubstantial statement, but which one? And I would welcome, if you make a statement, it's wonderful. I mean, if you are contributing, great. But it would be even better if you went and said, okay, what you said, A, is this, and B, it is wrong because. And then you show us what is wrong. And if you really want to be constructive, you give us, this is what would be right. Then everybody learns, okay? Because at the moment, just making a statement like this doesn't really help anybody, because we don't know what you're talking about, and we don't really understand what is insubstantial and why it is that. I don't know if you understand that. So it's great what you are doing. I'm very welcoming anybody who wants to engage in a dialogue, but please explain what you're doing and why you're doing it. The same here, you can't create the veins on your own arms. I mean, I just understand what I own. This is my body, okay? I am my own master. I have the ability to choose for myself where I go, what I do, and if I want to jump off the roof of a building, I can do so.
Well, it is good. I agree. It's good that we are getting comments in the chat, and Pharaoh has asked if they can join. Look, And I do want the gin and tonic show to be taking on panelists, guest panelists, and people coming on and having a chat, particularly if they're serious. And I'm going to say it's not going to happen today, Pharaoh. Basically, we want to do a few more of these shows, but longer term, yes, we do want to have guests, and we will. If you're being sincere in the chat, I'm quite happy to put your comments on, and we will respond to it. But we're kind of not ready. We're sort of not there yet. I don't think, are we, gentlemen? I think it's better that we just go through this, because the point of this show is of this particular thing that we're doing here is to show a non-believer's perspective on how we think these Islamic so-called sins are relevant today from our perspective. So it doesn't really help to have a Muslim come on. Obviously, you're going to think all of these are major sins. So there's not really much you're going to be able to contribute as a panelist here. But on other shows, I would definitely like to have Muslims come on, or just other people. We may have to have some vetting procedures, because quite frankly, doing regular live streams is just a magnet for fucking trolls to come in and try and get us shut down by posting porn or something like that. So we may need to talk to you on Discord or something first, but yes, in the future, we'd like to do that. So please leave comments, and as long as they're reasonable, we will read them. But for the next few shows, it's just going to be the non-believers who are going to be doing commentary, because that's the whole point of this. So I hope you understand.
And it would be great if you could sort of think about how these things come about, how you think human beings are formed, are created, where they originate from, how the whole process actually works. And if you believe that there is some higher power that is creating humans, I would love to know the process. So not just say, well, Allah created you. No, I would like to know the process. So that would be great if you could contribute in that manner.
Yeah, and as I say, I mean, we would like it to be a platform. We're not hostile to Muslims here. We do want to encourage a dialogue, and as long as you come on here and deal respectfully with us, you will be dealt with respectfully by us. So how are we ending on this one? Are we going for the quarter point? I want to stick with quarter point on this.
Yeah, I would go for that one.
But what about you, Hassan? Are you still...
Yeah, I think we'll go with quarter point.
Yeah, you're right with that one. I know you were pushing for a half, but okay, quarter for that then. Fair enough. Right, let us move to the next one. Sorry, I'm abandoning the numbers I wrote down for the page numbers.
Oh, and I get this statement here, which this is so nice. This is so perfect. Farah, please come back when we are ready to take guests on and panelists. This is such a great statement. This is brilliant.
Sorry, where was that? Was that a comment?
I have no good reason to believe in a God is merely subjective and not justified in a real sense. That is such a good comment. That is such a good point that I would love to address, because this is so good. But we can't. We don't have time to do that now, because we don't want to continue for 3 hours. We just want to stick to the sins, and then later on, when we have more of a show, then we can address comments like this and
yeah. I mean, I have to say,
ideas.
Pharaoh, no disrespect to Pharaoh, but this sounds like it's coming out of the Sabor Ahmed philosophical kind of tradition, that it's not merely a subjective statement, but it would be good to talk about that
exactly
in the future. But look, Pharaoh, I appreciate you throwing in on this, and as I say, in the future we will look to get Muslims on. But was there any other? Sorry, because I've missed a few of these comments. Was it? Oh, that only one to serve guy. Seriously, right? Let me just make a point about this guy, right? Only one to serve. I've banned him from the live chat before.
Yeah, but he's a troll.
He's been trolling us, right, since 2015. 10 years this guy has been pretending he can't spell words. And not just on our channel. I've seen him on every atheist and secular and agnostic channel on YouTube that I've ever seen. This guy has spent the last 10 years of his life. I mean, I suppose you give him a point for commitment, but I would also think maybe he needs to be committed as well. I mean, who trolls for 10 years in a row? I mean, it's Jesus Christ.
And always the same way.
I mean, the only reason I've not actually banned him from the channel is he leaves stupid comments at the bottom of the videos as well. But that helps with the algorithm, so I'm willing to tolerate it. But and
it shows people what Islam can do.
Due to speaking of Discord, anyone going on tonight? Possibly. We'll see at the end. We'll see how long this takes. Is that Nick? if you can put it in the Discord chat for them to join in. Yeah, yeah, I don't have the invite for the Discord channel. With Nick, if you do, mate, and you want to put it in there, then please do. But I don't actually have like a proper invite because I don't have the permissions on the Gin and Tonic server anymore. Excuse me. So, right, we're going to move on. Sorry, that was a bit of a diversion with the comments, but I think it is good that people are getting involved. Let's move on to the next one, which is 31, being corrupt in rendering judgment. Excuse me. Right, so Allah Almighty says, those who do not judge by what Allah has sent down, such people are unbelievers, 544. Those who do not judge by what Allah has sent down, such people are wrongdoers. That's the exact same thing, basically, 545. And then 547, those who do not judge by what Allah has sent down, such people are deviators. Now, these are 3 verses almost in a row. We've got 44, 45, and 47, and they're all basically saying the same thing. But don't let anyone tell you that the Quran is badly written or pointlessly repetitive, even though that has said that 3 times in the space of 4 verses. Right, so being corrupt in rendering judgment. Again, it's sort of vaguely written, this one.
I mean, my initial thoughts is, of course, being corrupt would be wrong in any way. So, you know, if you had a judge at the High Court here in the UK who was corrupt, of course you'd say wrong. But then what they're saying is, these people who are being corrupt by not going what Allah has sent down. So, in that regards, I couldn't really say that they're being corrupt because they're probably more moral, and they've probably ignored some of the more outlandish judgments and just used their common sense.
Yeah,
but it's telling us to judge by what is in the Quran. So I'm sorry, the Quran is there's nothing useful in the Quran. So this is a big fat 0 from me.
Well, I think we're trying to look at it in. Those are the Quranic verses, aren't they? They're very much saying. Well, I think they're. All right, I'll be charitable and say I think what they're saying is that you should be judging by the correct law. They just happen to think that the correct law is the Sharia, the nonsense that Muhammad was giving out. It's kind of hard because I would say I would agree with Isam that corruption in itself, I mean that is going to be at the very least immoral and in many cases should be considered illegal. And if you're talking about some kind of court judgment, in general, I would say, like you're saying, a corrupt judge is actually an incredibly bad thing, and they should be punished if they are proven to be so. So I'd say from that perspective, I would be tempted to give this a 1 if you're talking legally. And it does tend towards that. Obviously, if it was applying Islamic law, then I'd have a different opinion, but we are supposed to be more generalizing it, aren't we? So... I think I'd be tempted to give this a 1. I don't know. Stops. What do you think? You're not convinced?
I don't see it because I see it only as taking the Quran as a basis, which for me is useless.
But we are trying to look at this. I mean, bear in mind, you could use that criticism for every single thing on this list, though. You could say, well, stealing is done according to the Islamic law, and therefore we don't accept that basis. So I think if we go down that road, Stops, then we may as well.
But here's explicit, because here it says by what Allah has sent down. The others don't do that. If it says don't steal or don't lie or something, it doesn't say use only the Quran. But I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. If you take this piece out and say in general, should you be doing that? Well, if you do not judge by what Allah has sent down, what is the alternative?
Well, these are just I do see what you're saying. Just having a look at the Hadith bits to see if Allah does not accept the prayer of a ruler who judges by other than it's just saying the same thing other than what Allah sent down, so that doesn't help. I do get what you're saying. I see the point, but I just feel that I still feel I could use that objection to get rid of almost anything else on this list. I mean, I think I even raised that point when we were talking about murder, right back at the start, I was saying kind of, well, yes, in the general concept of murder, but considering that Islam allows people to be murdered for things that I don't think are justified reasons, if I was to take it in the Islamic context, I probably wouldn't consider it. So I think even right from the start, we've had to kind of generalize a bit because, you know, you'll be killed for being an apostate, you're killed for being an atheist. Obviously, you know, they'll say that that's not. They'll say that's moral. So their sort of system of murder is not something that I agree with. But
so if you say being corrupt is wrong, then obviously it's a 1.
Yeah, I understand
the reason why they're saying it,
but I think I would still have to go for 1 on this. I think I would.
Yeah, I'd go for half.
So we've got 0, half, and 1. That's a good one.
Dear, oh dear, Ihsan. I thought here, this is why we need 3 people, because then you've got a tiebreaker, and now we've got, what, 3 different scores here, have we?
Yeah. So we'll have to go and meet in the middle, which is half. Yeah.
Well, I'll have to. I could do a poll, couldn't I, of the audience? Maybe see if the audience can do a tiebreaker.
You just want the 1, Drastic.
I don't know. Well, no, obviously, I've been right. I tell you what, I'm not actually sure how to do a poll here. So, right, all right. I'm gonna. This is a first. This is a first. We haven't got actually that many people watching live, unfortunately, at the moment. But, oh, mind you, we have got Muslims in the audience, so that's going to corrupt. All right, I'm going to open it. Nick, Smile, any other dude, any other non-believers in the chat? Give me. What would you award this? Would you award this a 1 point for it being immoral, illegal? Would you award it? Give it half a point for being immoral? Would you give it 0 because it's the Islamic way it's done? How would you do it? Someone put some scores: 1, half, or 0. I can see you in the chat, so. Come on, you got to break this tie because we're all over the place on this one. And I really don't want to pull rank because it just seems like, you know, I don't want to do the host privilege thing. Smile's gone 0. See, look, he's agreeing with you, Stops. I think you're going to win this.
No, it's not about winning. It's just the reason that it says being corrupt is wrong. Okay, cool. That's a 1. But then the justifier or the quantifier, or no, the qualifier, is by what Allah has sent down, and it repeats it 3 times. So the only reference that you have is the Quran. So whatever you do that is corrupt, use the Quran to justify it or to condemn it, and that to me doesn't fly.
Well, Smile is on your side here, and other people who've been talking in the chat are not actually giving me a Nick. I saw Nick in the chat before, and dude. Well, look, I mean, it seems like Smile's going to have the deciding vote. This is a problem when most people watch these videos not live. We get 500, 600, 700 people watch, but we've only got like at most a dozen people watching live. So we'll have to build that up. Okay, all right. Look, Stops. The audience is with you. Smile's gone with you, so I think we're gonna have to give it a 0. So,
but
yeah,
with the caveat, with a little asterisk saying, if you are taking corrupt as absolute, then definitely yes.
Okay. Right, we're gonna move on to the next one. Taking bribes for judgment.
Okay,
Allah Almighty says, do not devour one another's property by false means or offer it to the judges as a bribe, trying through crime to knowingly usurp a portion of other people's property. So the key part of that, though, is or offer it to judges as a bribe. So essentially, we're talking about bribing judges. Right, I'm going to open and say I agree. I would give this a 1, and it seems to be more general.
Yeah,
I'd give it a 1 as well, because it's just basically saying don't bribe people. So
yeah.
Oh my goodness, 3 of us agree. What the hell happened?
Well, no, I like doing this. Is one of the reasons I want to do it is that some of them are pretty obvious, but some of them there is genuine different ways you can interpret it. That's what I thought would be interesting to do. Right, considering how much time we spent on the last one, I'm happy just to skip forward to the next one now because we've saved ourselves a bit of time. So we've given that a 1 then. Okay, I have to remember all these. I've not been writing them down. Okay, this is going to be interesting. Women looking like men and men looking like women. Now, funnily enough, there are no Quranic passages here So in terms of well, whether you're going to talk about people who just happen to not dress quite like the gender expectations, or whether you're talking about maybe transvestites or trans people, or I don't know, but we'll read.
Drastic.
It was just like he was the first.
Come on, give it a
gender-critical
0.
person.
Next point.
Well, come on, at least we'll read the hadith that they're quoted here, because it's much the same kind of as we would expect from the Quran. So we find in the Sahih that the Messenger of Allah said, Allah has cursed women who imitate men and men who imitate women. In other words, those who resemble men in their dress and speech. Allah curses a woman who wears men's clothes and a man who wears women's clothes. I mean, this is actually, I mean, it's, I suppose, what we would call today, say, a cross-dresser or a
gender non-conforming, maybe.
But obviously I don't give it. I mean, it's funny as well. Like, not only is this an obvious 0 for me, I think you'd have to be really kind of uptight to consider this a sin or even immoral. But I find it interesting.
What do Arabs wear? What is the standard clothing dress type of Arabs?
Exactly, they wear dresses. So I mean, it's kind of it's kind of subjective anyway as to what is considered male and female clothing, because it's quite different in the West. And to be fair, in the West, it's changed over time as well, as it has in probably all the other parts of the world. So this is an obvious 0, and I can't believe it's even recorded as a major sin. Hassan, did you want to add anything to that? Do you want to go against the grain and just
No, I'll go for 0. Because I can't see this how, I can't find any reason why I'd give this any point. It's just so obviously wrong. It's just people who gender non-conforming. It's just, it's not like they're saying, with the trans movements where you have men taking over women's sports and women's space. It's nothing like that. It's just basically looking like men and women looking like men looking like women. That's, there's no merit in this at all.
Now we need to talk about Trump, right? Who says there's only 2, male and female, and none is allowed in the other one sport.
Yeah, you know what? I spend my time on YouTube, whether it's on this channel or my main channel, which I will be going back to for any of my audience that are listening to this. I promise I will have a new video up tomorrow. I know I've been slack on it, but considering that I touch a third rail issue every time I put a video out, I'm not even going to start talking on trans issues, because it's just like I do enough. But yeah, obviously this is a big fat 0. And I think we should move on. Oh, what's this from Smile? Muhammad was claiming that revelation only came to him when he so happened to be wearing Aisha's dress as he slept in the bed. Is that an actual hadith, Smart?
Yeah.
That one. Oh, if you could find a reference, mate, that would be lovely. I'd like to put that up if you got it to hand before we finish. Okay, so that's another 0. Let's just move on to the next one.
I'm sure I have it in my list.
This one's another funny discussion. Being a whittle, a man who condones his wife's infidelity. So I think in modern parlance in the West, well, not just modern, it goes back to Shakespeare. We'd be calling this person a cuckold, I think. Allah Almighty says, a man who has fornicated may only marry a woman who has fornicated, or a woman of the idolaters. A woman who has fornicated may only marry a man who has fornicated, or a man of the idolaters. Doing such a thing is unlawful for believers. So, I mean, it doesn't address specifically man, woman, whether it should specify for one or another, but this is what it's saying. So if you allow your wife to sleep with another man, then you're a sinner. Right, I think I will start on this one, and then I'll be quick on it. I don't obviously think that this is illegal, and I don't actually think it's immoral. Now, on a personal level, it's not something that I would want to practice. But if somebody is into that lifestyle and it's their personal business, I would argue that if it's non-consensual, if the woman just happens to be cheating on you when you're in a agreed monogamous relationship, then I would say it's immoral. But it's not the immorality of the man. It would be the immorality of the woman. It's the wife who's cheating. So I still wouldn't consider it immoral, although obviously it's harmful behaviour in that sense if you're cheating on your partner when you're supposed to be faithful to each other. But aside from that, yeah, I mean, this is just a 0, and I'd also say it just speaks to the weird insecurity of the these kind of very pious Muslims, that this is so much on their mind all the time. But yeah, for me, a 0.
Standards in that it's the the man is is wrong for not condemning his wife's infidelity, but the man by definition can have multiple wives, multiple sex slaves, and the wife isn't supposed to have any opinion on that. So there is like that double standard between the two sexes. But yeah, I agree with you. There is no, although it's not something I would do, and I might consider it a bit strange. It's I think if if you have consenting adults, if they wish to live their life that way, then then that's their business. I wouldn't say it's wrong or immoral that way.
Yeah, Nick says, is there a female version of Whittle? I'm sure that is what Mohammed's wife. Well, yeah, essentially, it is automatically the other way round for anyone who's for any Muslim man who's got multiple wives. I mean, the wife is kind of against their will, having their in most cases, I would say against their will, or certainly against what they would want.
Who is Mojab?
Mojab, that's Mohammed Hijab.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, but the rules don't apply to Mohammed Hijab because he is some sort of half angel, half jinn, super being. So he gets to do what he wants, and his little rat Ali Dawah will back him up and sell that bloody woman under from what I've seen. Oh, actually, let's not get into that.
Well, it is definitely a 0. But the thing is that I think we've touched on this before, because if a man divorces his wife and then he wants to get back with her, she first has to have sex with another man. So what is that?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because we've got one more left, and this comes up. I was going to ask you. I'm glad you kind of remembered that, Stops, because the last sin is directly related to that. So maybe we'll talk about it there.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump the gun. I didn't know.
No. And to be honest, it's my fault, because when I gave you the list of sins, I gave you one. It was one out, so you would have known that was on the list before. But I sent you the wrong details, so it's my fault. But as far as this one's concerned, you'd give it a 0, Stops.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're all in agreement. That's another 0. So Islam is not doing too well this week. Let me see. Here we are. Marrying a woman to enable her to remarry her former husband.
Oh, shit. Yeah, exactly.
Again, so there's no Quranic verse here, but the... Well, Stops. Do you want to explain this one? Because I know you're familiar with it in terms of what has to happen.
I just did. If a man divorces his wife and they want to get back together, she first has to have sex with another man before they're allowed to get together again. And there's a whole list of men who are volunteering who say, "Well, I'm prepared to sacrifice myself." To have sex with your ex-wife so that you can get back together with her.
But the thing is, it wouldn't be necessary if it wasn't such a stupid law in the first place.
Well, there you go.
I mean, what is... I don't even understand the thinking behind this.
Can you get a -1 for this?
Well, I did think about having a negative category for something that was this stupid, but...
This is...
Because I did think this, and I think, why... And the only thing I could come up with was, if you imagine that you're not sure of if you want to divorce your wife, so this kind of like tempts you to make sure that you will only divorce your wife if you are absolutely certain that you never want to get back together. Because then if you have that doubt in you that she's going to have sex with another man before you get back, then that thought in your head will put you off getting divorced. That's the only justification I can come up with.
Yeah, I mean, I've struggled with the logic of this for a long time. What they're trying to achieve with this. But yeah, it's a big fat zero again for me because it's just personal sex stuff. That's
Same here, yeah.
Other people's business. But
And silly on top of it.
yeah, I mean, I agree with Stops. This is what there have been a couple of other sins like this where I've wanted to give it a negative score, but this might be. This might be
the cake, yeah.
I'm almost tempted to create a category on the spot just so we can give it a -1 because it is that stupid.
But, hang on, what is it saying? It is a sin to marry a woman to enable her to remarry her former husband, but it's Sharia. That this is the way it's supposed to be. How can you now suddenly say, well, yes, she has to have sex with another man, but other men are not allowed to do that?
No, I think it's not. I think it's more of a case of like the second man can't marry her with the intention of allowing her first husband to get back with her.
Yeah,
that's
I think
exactly
it's
the
the
point.
intentionality. It's kind of like you're abusing the system or something.
Yeah, I think that's what they're
Well,
trying to say.
remarry is okay. If she wants to, or they want to remarry, he is the enabler. So, in other words, he is the sex surrogate, or whatever you want to call it, the catalyst converter.
The catalyst converter. Oh, Stops! You got away with words.
But it is like that. But the thing is, what you need to understand: marrying a woman does not mean marrying her. It means to have sex with her. So
And
the
owning
nikah
her,
that is used as sex, not necessarily as marriage.
Yeah. It's yeah. I mean, we could probably talk about this for another 10 minutes. To be honest,
Yeah.
I just think it's completely bonkers. Yeah, I mean, unless you guys want to add something to that, I mean, I think I'm happy to just leave it there. We've already consigned this one to the dustbin.
Yeah,
It is
zero.
very silly. Yeah, so, well, unless either of you guys do have something else, we have come to the end of the list for this week. We're at number 35, so we're halfway through. Islam didn't do too well this week. I think got 1 point for lying, quarter point for lying, and 1 point for bribes. I think that was about it. So it's a bad week for Islam. Sorry to the Muslims in the chat if you think we're being unkind. We did give you 3.5 points last week, which I think was very generous. So,
do you want to have another short anecdote?
Yeah, go on, Stop. Well, actually, just before you tell the anecdote, what I'm going to say to the audience is, look, we've got a special show on Monday because it's a bank holiday here in England. So we are going to do a show same time, 8 p.m. UK time, and it's going to be on Monday night. So you won't have to wait long and I'll do a proper update of where Islam stands in the rankings on this. I'll have all the points.
And what is the occasion?
It's a bank holiday in the UK, which means generally people are not working. So they need some extra infotainment on their
So how many days of the gin and tonic show?
Sorry?
How many days gin and tonic show?
No, that's not that. That's
not month. That. That's
next month.
Week later.
So let's not spoil that. That's a little surprise for next month.
Okay, I've got a small thin anecdote. Because you've got two people, young people, both 18. They're not allowed to have sex, but they like each other. So in Islam, how can they have sex? Well, it's very easy. The girl, the female Muslim, leaves Islam. So the guy can take her as a slave. And because he's allowed to have sex with a female slave, they can have sex. Afterwards, after they've enjoyed themselves, what does she do? She goes and takes Islam back. And what happens? If you go and join Islam, all your sins are forgiven. And they lived happily ever after.
That is a beautiful anecdote and shows that this Islamic legal system is perfect in every possible way.
So flexible.
Yeah. And all you need
next time I'll tell you how to marry your own daughter.
By use of slavery. I mean, it's wonderful. It's
No, it's legal. It's according to Sharia. I'll tell you next week.
No, that's fine. Nick has a question here. I got a quick question. Would this sin be allowed if I held a camera in the corner like Andrew Tate? Oh, I think we're still talking about the cuckold one. Oh dear. I never thought I'd use that word on a live stream, to be honest. I always associate that with like right-wing memes and things like that, but apparently Islam got there first.
Oh goodness, yeah.
Yeah, well, look, we're going to be going an hour and a quarter, so I think this is a nice time to end. We're trying to keep this initial run of episodes shorter than they have historically been, so we're going to wrap up here. Yeah, that was good fun tonight. Islam didn't do too well, but it was a very interesting conversation on some of them, and it was nice to have people in the chat, including the Muslims. Thank you to the Muslims who left comments, even though you're wrong about your religion. You know, it's good to have your involvement. And yeah, we will be back on Monday. San, are you? I'm not sure if you're able to join us on Monday or not.
I can see if I can.
Okay. Oh, and for Rob fans, I know Rob said several weeks ago that he was going to do this. Like proof of or an argument against the Abrahamic God, and he was going to present it. He will hopefully be here next Friday. He's just been very busy. He's got family stuff to do and everything, but he should be here next Friday. Stops and I and maybe Hassan will return on Monday to do part 6 and to have a bit more fun. I hope you enjoyed tonight. Gentlemen, any last words? Or...
Nope. Thanks very much.
Nope.
Oh, that was it. All right, then. Thanks, everybody. We will see you on Monday. Good night.